Okay, great. All right. So for those of you who don't know me that well, I was raised in Christian Science, and my whole life I have been the witness, participant, recipient of physical healings. I didn't know that that's not the way that the world worked until I was exempted from health class in school, and I learned that, oh, this isn't the way of the world. But I have always relied 100% upon the power of prayer and working with Christian Science practitioners for every need, and have never been left wanting. So my trust in God and the power of prayer is great because I was never educated otherwise. So I've been very grateful for that. When I met the course community, I was like, wow, this is saying everything that Christian Science is saying, but why doesn't the course community seem to take physical healing literally? Then I met Nook Sanchez and saw her blog, and there was a deep connection and a deep recollection. Came out to Santa Fe and met with her, and I really feel like this incarnation is about supporting the work that's coming through her, which is the literal transcendence of the belief in death. Death and sickness all being just the same, but we give it hierarchy in the dream of illusion. So fast forward, I have been shouting from the rooftops, hey everybody, this is really urgent and really important. Physical healing is possible, and I know how to do it, and listen to me. And I have joined with many people, some with success and some with what I felt was not successful. And I continue to disseminate, what I have learned and what the inner teacher has been giving me. And I've been passionate about it. Anybody that's suffering, I think that's needless. You don't need that. And I felt like I had something to give them, to help them. So thank God for A Course in Miracles. Thank God for the Total Transformation course and the community that we've formed online, and for a lot of the family members are here this evening. Well, back this before sometime last year, I noticed that I had a pea-sized lump in my right breast, and I quickly dismissed it. I didn't want to think about it. I just kind of said, well, it's not real, and continued on my way. And it didn't seem to be growing, and it wasn't painful, and I just didn't think about it. Later on, it began to grow, and I started working with a practitioner. And I kept saying, well, this is going to work. The prayer has always worked. Of course, it's going to work this time. But I have to be radically honest. In the very back corner, far right corner in the back of my mind, it said, if you don't get this one could kill you. And it killed your dad's mother. So I saw that lurking there. And I said, well, I've handled the belief in heredity. And, I'm not her, and I'm going to have my demonstration. Thank you very much. By January, the lump had grown so big that there was no more ignoring it. And I began to become more fearful, and it was nothing that, that I could really ignore. Now, I'm going to just take you through the thought process, and it's only 2 months' time. I've sort of listed out the miracles and the blessings that I've received through this, but there's a lot of them, and I didn't want to leave any out. But it's just to take you through the thought process, ego versus the Holy Spirit. So at first, I was refusing to seek medical treatment. I am going to prove to the world that Christian Science heals. I am going to champion my God, in whom I am so deeply in love with. I'm going to prove the power of God, and I'm going to prove that the truth is true. And it was so delicious. And it was it so fed the spiritual ego. And I felt so justified. I mean, it was a worthy cause. It's a good thing. And I was going to champion this cause and show people that they don't need to suffer. So that's how I went into this thing. As the lump grew, I fell into bouts of despair, the fear began to outweigh any confidence that I had. And I realized that I had to come forward and talk about this. And the ego began to slay me with bouts of embarrassment. This is truly embarrassing. Here you are standing from the rooftops and proclaiming that God heals the body and that you know how. And you don't have this one, Coreen. This is out of your control. This is getting bigger. I know that fear is the factor, and the fear had outgrown my sense of hope. There was something that came in, and I want to share this with you. I had gone to a retreat in Canada to support Joel Brass right in the middle of all of this. And I was sitting at his coffee table and I was crying. And I said, you know, my worst fear is that here I am shouting from the rooftops, and these people are going to have hope in me, and they're following me, and they want to believe in what I'm sharing, and I'm going to die. I'm going to fall off the end of the cliff, and like the Pied Piper, I'm going to bring the masses with me. And that was my worst fear. During the retreat, I had had such a beautiful time of it. The whole day, Coreen was absolutely absent, and the Holy Spirit was moving, and the teachings were poignant and beautiful. And I got a taste of the contrast. I knew that that's what I really was. I wasn't the body. I wasn't Coreen. I was that which was coming through. And so I went home, and hot on the heels of having such a beautiful encounter with my holy self and really being steeped in the Christ, I was sitting at the table thinking about my worst fear, and all of a sudden that inner teacher said, flip it. No, what you do want, and he's talking about the ego, you do want to stand at the rooftops, and you do want to call out to everybody and say, hey, God heals, follow me, and you do want them to go right off the cliff with you, and you do want to die. That's a tough one for a lot of people to get, but it was, for me, a rebirthing moment, because I saw the heart and jugular of the ego thought system that I had been blindly following. I saw what the ego was trying to do with the vehicle of Coreen. And it was emotionally horrendous. And it took me a few hours to get through it, but I did. But just to be able to see it was the first blessing, because I know clearly how that ego thought was working, what it intended to do, and that I wanted no part of it. Any part of the ego thought system, anything of separation, was a vote or in furtherance of that plan. And it was so toxic and so gross to me that now it's like a hot potato. I don't want it. So that was the first one. So soon after that, right around that same time, Nook had been encouraging me to go see a doctor. And I think what was going on with Tomas when he had cancer was that he was going to champion his God, and he was going to have his demonstration. And as you know, Tomas passed. And Nook said, don't do that, Coreen. Don't be afraid of the medical community. If you're afraid of it, you're making it more real. You know, go have this looked at. And I thought at first, she just doesn't understand. You know, Nook doesn't have the benefit of being raised in Christian Science. She just doesn't get it. And, cause is clearly in the mind. It's not in the body. I don't have to tinker with the body because cause is in thought. And about maybe a few days later, I got the holy instant again saying, you know, there's something to be learned about your thought about the medical. Christian Science doesn't poo-poo the medical community, but it does. There's this deep line of demarcation saying, why would I tinker with the body when everything is in the mind? And so we just don't go there. And as I was raised, there must have been some judgment in my child mind about we don't go to doctors. And so I thought, okay, all right. I had a moment of total surrender, which was tough. I need to back up here for a moment and tell you that each one of us has a theme of separation. Remember, to think that we've actually separated from God, there had to be some way that we champion the small self. And the way that Coreen championed the small self was through the I know mind. I got no attention and no love from a dad who only recognized when I got an answer right or could solve a problem. It was very early on that I would get love when I knew the answer. So that set it off into motion. So this I know mind has been driving me. It made me successful as a lawyer. Ha ha, funny that I would pick that occupation. And it got me the strokes of the love that I so desperately wanted but could not get from my family. Yeah? Okay, so from that point forward, also the I know mind is very masculine. It's very, I'm going to do it. It's very forward motion. It has no idea how to receive. It knows no idea about how to be soft or receptive. It's very conquer and destroy and get your accolades. And that's what was been running the show. So I went to this local clinic here in Abiquiu. She immediately looked at me and said, "You're going to the hospital." I went to the Espanola hospital the very next day. I was full of fear and trepidation about going because I hadn't gone to doctors. And we don't go to doctors. Well, some of the people that I had let in on what I was doing, they began texting me love notes. We're with you. It's okay. You know, I just felt like there was some close circle of friends rallying for me as I made the decision to go to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, they asked me for my medical history, didn't have one. Who's your primary care physician? Didn't have one. So the nurses caught on very quick that I'd been raised in Christian Science. Well, I went in for the mammogram, and the very next day he says, "You need to come back tomorrow for a biopsy." So I said, "Oh, geez, something's not good." I went home, came back the next day. Those nurses rallied around me. I was laying on the table and I was cold and shivering. And these nurses came in. They said, "Coreen, we hear that you believe that God can heal the body." And I said, "Yes, I do." And they said, "Well, so do we. Can we pray with you?" And these nurses came up and put their hands on my legs, and we prayed. And not only did we pray, but I cried. I cried that I had pushed in my mind this entire community out. That these beautiful, well-meaning, prayerful, God-believing people were right there doing the very best that they could for me, and that I would have harbored some separation, which I teach is toxic. By the time I got into my car, I knew that I had literally been carried on wings of angels through that process. It was just gorgeous. So there was another blessing, enfolding an entire community that I had kept out. And I had no longer had judgment. I just felt love for them and from them. I received the call from the doctor that, yes, you have cancer. If you don't get it out of you, it will kill you. What I found out, which was very interesting, and this pinged with me when I heard it, was that this type of cancer feeds 99% off of estrogen. Okay, well, from what little I know about medical, estrogen is the female hormone. Here comes the next lesson I received. I had completely effaced the feminine side of myself. I cherry-picked her because I wanted to look good, to be attractive to men, or be competitive for women. But what I had not embraced or embodied was her softness, her steadfastness, her quiet strength, her unwavering love, the ability to receive, the ability to be still. I had bullied her and buried her because she got me nowhere. That was never recognized by Dad. That was not in accordance to performance. So here, blessing, again, inviting the divine feminine, inviting her to take her place within me, asking to recognize all the qualities of the Divine Mother, recognizing where I have in the past expressed them and knowing that she's right here with me. Letting the mother take residence back again. Huge, huge healing. And it's no accident that the lump occurs in the breast. Nurturing, allowing, nurturing. Okay? The next part was telling my friends and family. I projected on my daughter. Her separation technique is abandonment. So I can't tell my daughter. She's going to be fearful that I'm going to die. I can't do that to her. She can't handle it. Boy, was I ever wrong. Finally, I called her. I told her, and this young woman has rallied like I've never seen her rally. She took it in stride, and my entire family has really dug in and been supportive for me. And I knew that this challenge that seemed to be for me was not for me alone, but definitely for me and my biological seeming family, and definitely my online family. So I was grateful for all of that and what I was so wrong about my daughter. I went through a period of realizing that what I think I know in Christian Science or A Course in Miracles isn't enough. Believe me, I was studying every day. I was working with a Christian Science practitioner. I was reading that lesson. I was, listening to doing the daily lesson with A Course in Miracles. And I realized at this point that whatever this is so far in the bunker that the I know mind isn't going to be of any assistance. This was the time to go deeper into surrender and to listen. And that was so difficult for this I know mind that constantly kicks it into top gear and goes out and gets the answer. I believed that if I just opened this book and found the right statement by Jesus, it would be the silver bullet that would get it and would heal it. Because I've never been for a second thinking that the body was actual or that cancer had, it was in the body. I always have known that it was false belief working in my mind that is the cancer. So it set me out to just figure it out. And I had to retire that mind of figuring it out. That's probably one of the biggest ones for me, the biggest challenges. They set a surgery date, and I kept hoping, and I actually kept daydreaming. I'm going to have my demonstration. I'm going to wake up one morning, and I'm going to feel my breast, and it's going to be gone. Or Holy Spirit's going to wake me up at 3 a.m. and give me just the right answer, and I won't have to go through this. My God wouldn't make me go through this. Okay, so the day before surgery, I'm raging. I am raging at the God that I profess to love. And it went something like, where the fuck are you? I have given you my life. I am your poster child. I have left everything for you. I study every day. I'm in service to your children. I'm on my knees. I've given you every title, every trinket, everything I thought I was. I'm on my knees now, God. Where are you? Don't make me go through a mastectomy, please. No answer. At the morning of the surgery, I wept. And the weeping was the deepest sorrow and a deepest surrender of anything that could have been left of the one that was trying to figure it out, or that thought that she had something to say or something to offer somebody else. It was okay, not my will, but thine. I don't want to leave out the importance of my online community family. These beautiful heaven-sent angels sent me almost daily, and not in coordination with each other, emails, cards, web cards, gifts, text messages, phone calls, things that they found helpful. I mean, it was constant every day. Their love is what carried me, because I was just being tossed around like in the washing machine. It is the only thing that just kept me coming back up, take the next step, do the next day. You can do this, you can do this. And it was by their love. We cannot do this alone. Nook and Daniel so lovingly picked me up in the morning and drove me down to the surgery. I was frightened and feeling cold again, hadn't gone through this before, and they're sticking needles in me, and I'm wearing a weird gown, and I'm about to lose a breast, and I don't know what's coming. And John Mark Stroud and I are friends, and I asked him to join with me, and I was laying there in the bed with the curtain drawn in front of me, waiting for them to wheel me into surgery. And I saw him before my face, and he too was naked, wearing a gown and a cap on his head, and he was pointing at me, and he was laughing, his crazy ass laugh. And he kept laughing, and he kept laughing, and I realized the absurdity of this. And I began to laugh, and it was the only time that I laughed that day. I was so grateful that my last memory before they came in and put me under was laughing. And I came out of surgery, and I don't remember much, but I remember leaning on my brother Daniel. I remember them taking me to their home. I remember them lovingly giving me soup and putting me into bed. The next day, I came home, and I couldn't bear to look at myself. I didn't want to look. I didn't even know if I had a nipple. I didn't know if I had a breast. I knew I was bandaged, and I couldn't look. I had these drains hanging off of my body. If I look at blood, I get wheezy. I don't want to look at this stuff. I'm in pain, and I can't dress myself. And I'm in the bathroom, and I just remember falling to the floor, feeling like a complete freak, and really just like a small child going, what? You know, just helpless. And wow. Okay, here comes another blessing. How much of my body and my appearance has been my source of value? It was the only kind of attention and love that I could get from men. It depended, my worth depended on whether I was attractive or not. And if I have one breast, where's my value? I mean, how cheap, but come on. I really had to look at that. And this sense of I can hardly use the restroom or dress myself or go to bed on my own. Oh, imagine what that does to the masculine, I can do this, I know mind. Wow, to have to ask somebody to help me. I had to ask the lady at the Walmart hairdressing place to help me wash my hair. I had to ask Gil to drive me to the grocery store or help me put a shirt on. And I wouldn't take the bottom shirt off. Nobody was going to look at me. I'm not looking at me. Nobody's looking at me. So, I mean, this was huge. I didn't know how much was vested in the appearance. I knew some of it was, but I didn't know how deep it ran. And I didn't know how hard it was for me to be vulnerable. To actually need and ask for help is the death of the I know mind. It just doesn't happen. I get all my love from being able to help others, but never receive. Again, that's the feminine. I don't know how to receive. Receiving is dangerous because it comes with all sorts of attachments and expectations. So, moving forward, I received the news that the cancer was not in my lymph nodes. I was very grateful to get that call. I had some follow-up doctor appointments, and my daughter just flew in unannounced, said, "I'm here, I'm going with you." That was beautiful. She drove me down to the doctor appointments, and we sat there, and the doctor said, "It's not in your lymph nodes. You don't need chemotherapy. You don't need radiation, and we'll see you in 6 months just to check on how you're healing." She walked out of the room, and my daughter, who watches me from afar but's not actively on the path, turns and says, "How great is our God?" And that was huge for me. That's true. How great is our God? And I'm beginning to see that there's something going on behind all of this. There hasn't been a failure. There hasn't been an accident. It hasn't yet been revealed to me. So hang on just a second. Okay, yeah. So we come home and my daughter leaves, and this last piece from the Holy Spirit really hits me. It says, "Coreen, if you had gotten your big healing before you had your surgery, can you imagine what would have happened to the spiritual ego or the I know mind? Can you just feel that for a minute? Oh, I was right all along, and look at what I know, and look at the miracle that's happened, and oh my gosh, I have something that you don't, and look at how fabulous." I would have been spewing on my Facebook page about this awesome healing. And it would have taken the I know mind and the spiritual ego and made the gap between the spiritual ego and my holy self that much greater. I was saved by not having the miracle. And I was saved because I broke. Coreen broke the morning of the surgery when I had to go in total humility like the lamb, not my will, but yours be done, into a surgery and not having what I thought should be the outcome, feeling I had been abandoned by God and just going through it. In that moment, that I know mind has died. And I see the utter perfection in the aftermath. I want to remind you, I was diagnosed officially almost 2 months to the day, 2 months ago in January. It is now, just past mid-March. They went in, they took the tumor, it hasn't spread. I don't need any of these other things that people, worry about afterwards. And I have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 blessings that I would have never gotten had it not been for this challenge. These things are so deep in the bunker. It would have taken me lifetimes to see them. And not only is it for me, but my daughter has grown and blessed from it. I know my TTC family has grown and blessed from it. They've carried me through it. We've done this together, literally as the one that we are. Now, this whole thing that we're doing, no matter what path we're on, we are unselfing. We're peeling back the self that we are not to reveal what we are. And it's only the ego that ever fears or resists or feels persecuted in this process. And the tighter that we cling to our false idols or those things that we feel define us, the harder it seems to let go. And the ego rages. If you unself, you'll turn into nothing. You'll know nothing. You'll have nothing. You'll die. Well, it will die, yes. And I too have had those same thoughts dancing in front of me and trying to torment me. But by the grace of God, who didn't answer my prayer because something better was in store, the peeling back of the monumental, I must know the answer, or I think I know something at all, left room. This morning, I was hiking and I was listening to Course in Miracles. And the voice that speaks the Course in Miracles was talking about how Jesus went through the crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension for us. And all of a sudden, the man's voice dimmed and the inner teacher kicked in. And it says, you know, Coreen, you know that what you do unto others, you do unto yourself. Meaning, I won't judge or hold a grievance or hate or separate from anybody, because I know the result of that is the separation and judgment of myself. Because there really is just one of us here, only one Son of God in infinite, individuated expression. We truly are all one. So if that is true, and it is, in the negative, meaning don't judge because you are judging yourself then the opposite must also be true. That everything we ever do in the name of truth and love hasn't been for ourselves only, but it is for the one and does affect the one Son of God. So as one awakens, we are doing that for everyone because we share the same mind, okay? So if everybody that has ever been or is to come in the dream is part of that one Son, what they have done has been for us. Oh, Jesus, who was crucified and resurrected and ascended, of which we are one with, has already done it for us. We live in him. He lives in us. Up until today, I've kept Jesus as the great exemplar away from me, trying to emulate or come unto his perfect example. I'm one with him, and he lives in me. And if that's true, then I have been crucified, I have resurrected, and I have already ascended. Meaning it's done. It's already done. And that thought of I need do nothing takes on a whole new meaning. I don't need to try or effort. All I need to do is accept. The one that we all are has accomplished it already. We only need accept that fact. To the extent we value a small separate self, we won't. We'll stay a seeker. We'll stay outside of it. I'm going to come unto my God. Someday I'll find God. Some way I'll close the gap with my holy self. But as you peel back those layers, as you undo and unself yourself, even down to that final one, which breaks you and brings you to your knees, and you think it's over with, the Christ, which is what you are, can come to your awareness in the absence of the small self. And in the knowing, as I stood there, knowing and declaring, Jesus lives in me. I'm feeling it and saying it. He lives in me. We are one in being. He lives in me. He's right here, that I can see with Christ's vision, that I can be the way and the truth and the life. That the light that he is, that's extending and pouring out through me because we are one. That is the way we are to walk and to move and to speak and to express and to extend and to co-create with God. That's who you really are. But you won't know it until every layer is pulled back from the small self. And so I'm just standing here, you guys, saying, look at what I went through. Maybe something pings with you. Maybe something similar for you. But take heart, because, and not that you have to have a sickness to go through this. I don't know. I'm not saying anybody has to go through what I've gone through, but I'm saying you have to unself the self. And when it comes to that point, take heart and be still, because what the ego knows is the end. Your glory is waiting for you in that moment where you know what you are. And to feel that Christ take residence. And I'm not saying I have it all figured out. I'm saying this happened this morning, and it's just something alive and pulsating and real, and a gap has been closed. So that now I'm so grateful for breast cancer. I can say it with every ounce of my being. I am so, so grateful for every lesson, every blessing, every aha, every holding my face down on the carpet when I thought I knew something, until I surrendered and said, I realized I don't know anything. And being loved so much that I didn't get the answers to my prayers. Yeah. And I just really want to thank all of you that are on here right now that have been holding me and walking with me. Wow. Yeah. You're just all absolute, so clearly angels. If you ever forget what you are, you can call me, because I'll remind you. Yeah. Just one. It is such a privilege to be just one with all of you. So if you have anything that you want to say or comment or ask anything, nothing's off the table. This is really to be transparent and share from the heart. And if not, I really appreciate you being here and allowing me to share, to bring it full circle, and to give every ounce of glory to our brother and to God. Yeah. Hello, Rodolfo.
Coreen, it's Susan.
Hi, Susan.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to say that I really applaud your courage to stand back and allow all of this to unfold for you, and again for all of us, because we are all one, as you said.
Yeah.
Secondly, I had no idea this was happening. This is the first I heard. So I'm sending you some light and love, and I know you're surrounded already, but I just thank you. I just wanted to say what an honor and privilege it is to be enjoying with you at this point, to know the truth and to discover this for yourself firsthand on so many levels. I mean, wow. Yeah. So thank you, Coreen, for this.
Thank you, Susan. Yeah, thank you. You know, there was a lot of people saying, you know, they don't share. And I was reluctant at first to share, thinking that there's going to be a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. You know, and fear this is another thing that's come in. Fear is the only enemy. That's all we ever have to contend with. Everything is just, you know, smoke and mirrors, and it's the fear that makes us contract around it and make it real for us. fear is the only thing that we ever have to dispose of. And it's perfect love that casts out fear. And that perfect love resides in you, but you won't find it while you're, you know, in all the outer layers of the ego thought system. So I guess what I'm saying is I was concerned that a lot of fear would come up around me, projections on me, and might make it worse. And I finally just had to say, no, you know, there's just the mind of God. There's just the Christ. The rest is just erroneous. And if this is going to help anybody awaken along with me, then one person being helped by it to me is worth it. And yeah, I'm not sorry now, but yeah, I got some backlash about it to begin with. What are you doing? It's like, I just felt it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'd like to tell you something.
Let me find out where you are. Hi, Marianne. Hi.
I think you probably know, you nailed me not too long ago on that I know mine thing, and you saw right through me. You see me. And a lot of masculine energy, and, you know, just, I so needed to hear that, even though it hurt me that night, it took me aback. You know, it didn't really hurt me. It hurt, you know, the ego.
Right.
But this is so timely because in addition to, you know, getting such a message on that I know mind, and I've got the formula for this, and I know where to go and what to use, and, you know, like I said, you've seen me. Mm-hmm. I've just gone through another bout, and it hasn't been like this for a while. Just huge, deep wave of self-attack, self-hatred. And it's like 60 years with this false identity hammering me, most of it. Very little relief ever. And it's brought me to my knees this last week. Literally, it's my cancer. It's my cancer in my mind. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because I've done everything the Course says to do, everything everybody says, and it works for a little while, and it comes, and it's just like, I can't let it go.
Yeah.
Lately, I'm starting to see more and more. The other day, I went in and I asked for help, and immediately I saw, this is an imaginary character. This is a figment of your imagination. But I can't seem to get to what's the payoff in this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I just gave up today. I didn't do anything. Just gave up.
Thank you.
And then I saw that you were going to come on tonight. But you just gave me the courage now to be transparent about this. I've been too ashamed to go to all these people that I know from, you know, in all these groups and different people that always sound so spiritual. And I want to say, I'm still hating my guts, you know, and I feel like too embarrassed to say that. But I know that's the ego. That's the problem.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. You know, we learn, we're all on paths, and we use books and we use teachers until we're educated outside of them. And then the last thing is to turn within and listen to your own inner teacher. At some point, you've got to just go into this I don't know place and surrender everything. We get to a place where only our inner teacher can tell us anything at all, you know. And, you know, it's so important. Oh my gosh, I forgot this part, but it's so important. Any judgment we know is toxic because it's of separation. And then we go, oh, well, I'll just judge myself, right? Well, that's no difference because we're one. And not to judge anybody's path, not to judge how anybody handles their situation, not to judge a Christian Scientist for taking medical care or a Christian Scientist for not taking medical care. We don't know what anything is for. And from the outside, the ego says, you failed. It looks bad. But the Holy Spirit's viewpoint is, man, it's a win. It's it's a victory over the small self. And would I trade it? No. So allow this beautiful undoing. It is a state of surrender at this point. If it really is your personal cancer, it's in a state of surrender and allowing Holy Spirit to give you what you need without any self-judgment. And the hindsight is all blessing. You'll understand it later, but not in the thick of it.
Boy, because I don't understand it now. That's where I've been for off and on for days. It's like, I do not understand. I don't know what this means. Boo-hoo. Just, but just on my knees. We all get there. Boo-hoo, and I don't know what this is for, and temper tantrum, and F you, God, and screw the course, and nothing's working, and, it's okay. It has its time, and it has its place. Thank you, sis. And I'm holding you. You're not alone walking through this. I know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Coreen.
Hey, sis.
Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you.
I love you too. Yeah. Thank you for everything you are and do, and thank you for supporting me.
Thank you.
You and Martha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions about it? Something that they didn't understand or are still wondering about? Alicia, I wanted to talk to you for a minute because of your question to David Hoffmeister. Is that all right if I bring it up? Yeah. Okay, so I was listening to David. What's really cool is that a lot of the spiritual teachers are tackling the subject of healing, and it's an idea whose time has come. And Lisa Natoli is on it. David's on it. I know others, I'm sure, are doing it. And Nook and I are addressing it. So Alicia asked David Hoffmeister a pointed question, which I thought was really good. Why are all of these teachers of God seemingly getting cancer and dying? And I thought the same thing, like, why me? Oh, of course, because you're out there talking for God. And so there's this belief that if you talk for God too loudly, you're going to get something. Well, David didn't answer the question. He kind of skirted all the way around it and was never gave her a direct answer. And I'd like to, from my understanding, which may or may not be right, but this is my feeling on it. Look, to overcome the belief in death, we need to overcome the whole thing, the whole enchilada. And I've had lots of healings with littler, smaller things, even big, smaller things, like instantaneous healing of the flu, or, things that people would say is big, but it's not nearly as big as death. And if you're a teacher for God and you really have put all of your eggs in the basket and you want to overcome the dream of death, well, guess what? There's going to become a time where you are challenged with the belief in a hierarchy of illusions. The belief that we are a body, the belief that death has the final say no matter what we do. All of these need to be challenged. I deeply feel that because up until this point, nobody is actually demonstrating to the level that Jesus did, that the teachers watered down the explanation by saying, well, the body isn't real as long as you've healed the mind and you're in a happy dream. Who cares what happens to the body? And I adamantly say that is not what Jesus came here to teach us. He never looked at someone and said, well, you seem to be all right at the level of thought. Forget the body. Don't worry about it. No, he was such a clear transparency for the life unafraid, a fearless mind, that he was pure light. And in the presence of pure light, a shadow cannot stand. It has no power to resist. And so if we sit there and say, well, it doesn't matter what happens to the body, you have made the body more powerful than the mind. The body is an idea in our mind. The body is absolutely neutral, and it takes its orders from our beliefs. When you heal the mind, meaning a mind that is free of fear, that mind is made whole. It is no longer split between ego and Holy Spirit. The whole mind sends the message of wholeness, and the body must follow as long as we're keeping the body around. So yes, sis, I do believe that the more a person raises their hand to be on this path, not that we're being punished, but we have to prove what we're saying, what we believe. There's going to become, it's an opportunity, not a death sentence. It's an opportunity to prove what it is we know. Have I been cursed? No. Have I been deeply blessed because of where I'm at? Yes, I am. And I've got this vehicle longer, and I'm still out to run at the idea of death. I still have to overcome the belief in a hierarchy of illusion. What started all this was, well, I know only the truth is true, but if I don't master this belief, I'm going to die. That's the belief in a hierarchy of illusions. That there's an order of difficulty and miracles. A headache, no problem. Cancer, that's a problem. As long as we believe that, and we're going to believe that as long as we believe in the central dream of death. If we believe that death is inevitable and where we ultimately all must go, we will always have a hierarchy of illusions. And sis, I'm still here, and I'm still all about, I'm all in. I want to heal. I want to become so anchored in the Christ I am that death, a hangnail, headache, or the flu is all the same. One error is not greater than another error. It's a mistake, and they can be corrected by the truth. I'm not there yet, but I'm here to make that demonstration. And I want to do it so that somebody else doesn't have to do it. You know, and what's happening right now, this truth, you know, when I said that Jesus has done it for us, and that when one of us awakens or heals a belief or has a healing, it's done on behalf of the one, because we don't have a separate mind. This leavening of the bread, this filling out of truth, this permeating of reality is taking place right now. Our communities are growing, and the truth is stronger than any error. And so it's happening very rapidly. We're now taking on the central dream of death. Nobody dreamed of doing that. And if I had said this 10 years ago, been scoffed at. So let's take heart and keep on. And holding and supporting and joining, no matter what you call your path. Thank you for being on a path. Yeah. Martha, what are you doing? Hi. Just saw Martha, who's Mary's sister, and she's there with Ken Hoover. Hi, honey. Good to see you. You'll have to watch the recording, love. We're almost done. I just love you. Nice to see you. Yeah. So, Lisa, does that help at all, or does that just increase? How do you feel?
It is so beautiful that today we're talking about that, because today the same thing came, and I'm stuck in crucifixion, and I'm not seeing the resurrection. Mm-hmm. And that's still a strong one for me, because I still feel that it's a price to pay to obtain God. I still see these challenges as a price, and I have not come to see it not as that, but from where I now. I'm sorry, I'm gonna close the door because my kids are there and probably the noise is coming. So, still stuck on that, that there is a price to pay to be with God. And it's really fearful. And you say it's fear. It's just fear. It's fear. And I can see it. I can put it there, I can put a space, I can put the silent, but I cannot say it, I have undone it. There is a lot of fear. There is a lot of fear. And there is, I'm afraid of God. I'm afraid he will ask me for proof. I'm afraid he's gonna send me lessons for obtaining the resurrection. Like, go through this crucifixion, it's gonna hurt, you're gonna be really afraid, you're gonna be really fearful, but then you're gonna have the resurrection. And I'm not sure if I'm ready for that. I don't know if the price right now, it's not as wanted as the fear of going through that.
To the extent that we believe in fear, we get to keep the separate self, right? But there's the ego's tripping you up with that old age belief that God requires, God knew of and required Jesus to be sacrificed, and therefore we are being asked to sacrifice. God requires our crucifixion, resurrection, before we can ascend. And that's absolutely not true. The choice to know separation is the hell. And it is a state of constant fear. And it's the fear that needs to be undone for you to know that you actually never left God as your holy self. We're here to close the gap between who you think you are and your holy self. I myself got to that place that said, hey man, if I'm supposed to die, it's okay, because ultimately I know that I'm not going to die. But I didn't want to reincarnate, and I don't see any need for it. It seemed like just this useless journey to go through the wheel again and of amnesia and incarnating and doing it over, and that was my big prayer. It's like, no, please, if anything, it's not enough just to know that there is no death. It's to master the belief of death here and now. It's to awaken here. Yeah. Death is being here and being asleep. Death has nothing to do with a casket. Death is identifying with something that you're not, and not thinking real thoughts, and not being what you truly are. Give that fear over to the Holy Spirit, sis.
It's okay, Coreen, like I said, I feel really blessed because for the longest time, I was carrying that fear, but now there is a gap. I'm not saying I have crossed it, but I see a gap, and it's like I told you in the message, it's not more protecting myself against the fear. It's just to know that it doesn't even exist. So it's not like being present and protect myself from whatever I think the threat is. Yeah. It's just recognizing that the threat itself is unreal. So I know I have not healed, but I see it. And there is that gap now that is it's happening. And it's thanks to you, thanks to the community, like you said, thanks to everybody. Everybody is adding to this. And it's that's why I think I feel it, because it's a strength.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
It's not really wrestling and wrangling fear to the floor. It's knowing so much of what you really are, that the spookiness of fear, or the any stickiness to fear, it doesn't attach itself to you. It's not real. Oh crap, it's still there. Oh wait, it's not real. That's called wishful thinking. But getting up into, I and my father, mother are one, knowing more about what God is, and therefore what you are as God's image and likeness. From that vantage point, you've risen above it. You don't fight fear, but you've transcended it, because it just no longer has any influence in your thinking. Yeah. And that comes from moments of joining, or reading the course, or, extending love and gratitude. You can get there lots of ways, and you do it, sis. We've done that together. Thank you. Beautiful. Wow. Okay. So is there anybody else? I don't want to hold anybody here or whatever, but I want to give everybody a chance to talk if they'd like to. Hi, Winnie, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to share a thought. I have a friend who was diagnosed with cancer last spring, stage 4, and got through chemotherapy and stuff like that. And he got a lot of help during all this process too. And at one point he asked, he said, "What is it for? What's the purpose of that?" And got some answers. And then he said, "Well, it actually feels like I could die from this." And the answer was, "Well, you could if you resist." And I was thinking about maybe this dying stuff is about our resistance, and it could be on different levels. I remember, you talked about John Mark, his wife Cindy, who got 2 years ago a triple bypass, and it was just in the last moment. It was just, the hospital had to do it during the Christmas because it was really an urgency. And I remember that it was like, maybe we are sometimes not willing to listen actually for what we are supposed to do. During this process, she find out also with John Mark's help what the blocks was about. And during the process, she could honestly say, "I'm done with separation. That's it." So I'm just pondering: is it just are we resistant actually to really stand in the light, even to the point of death? Maybe it's our resistance.
Yeah, well, it's like the same thing with the resistance to the medical community, and then letting that go and opening up to it allowed me to actually transcend the fear and embrace it. I don't know, how that applies exactly to death. I'm not there yet. I don't wish to die. I know that what I am can't die. I don't want the vehicle to die because I feel like I'm just going to be here again trying to find my soulmates again to finish the work. So yeah, I guess to be in a place of non-resistance to the idea, not to fear it, because then we've made death real. Yeah. And I'm so grateful for that end of death study group that we've got going. We're really tackling this head on. And I don't profess to know all the answers, but I know that the central dream, once we've got it, all the lesser forms of death, which is anything that we don't really want, falls. If we can get that central ego dream of death, once we've got that mastered, the whole lot falls like a house of cards. Yeah. And he did it for us. What I got this morning was that he's already done it, and to be able to accept that for ourselves, we don't need to hang on the tree or be crucified and resurrect or ascend. He's done it for us. It's accepting that and understanding why it was for you, why you are part of that already. That's what hit me like a ton of bricks this morning. Yeah. Thank you, Winnie. Thank you all for coming. It means a lot to me that you wanted to show up and just join with me on this. For what it's worth, I offer this, and whatever comes next, just honesty, transparency. Please come forward with your challenges and your victories, and join, keep joining, keep reaching out. We're doing it. We're undoing this. Look back where you were 2 years ago and tell me you haven't made tremendous strides. And then realize it's the grace of God, the hand of God right there in your life, God calling and us answering. And once we agreed to answer, there's nothing that's going to stop the completion of this. The Father will have its Son, because that's actually where we live. We're so loved, so infinitely supported by the seen and unseen, and I have experienced it from you and beyond. Undeniable. My prayer is that you meet yourself
my experience in all of this is that you meet yourself and your brother.
Thank you.
It was on the last weekend there, as I shared in TTC last Saturday in the morning group. The previous weekend, my wife became very ill, and we landed up going to the hospital. And we felt like, both my wife and I felt like we were being guided every step of the way. We both set the intention to see the Christ in everyone that we were working with. Because she hadn't been to the doctor, I think, in about 26 years. And this is the first time she had actually been into a hospital or anything like that. And same sort of situation, she had no family physician. And it's not that she had a particularly strong belief against doctors, it's just that she never needed one. And we'd never seen her sick before, and I'd never experienced her getting sick. But in this situation, she became ill very quickly. We got her in there, and everything flowed smoothly. And I kept getting the message to just trust the Christ in your brother. Because just, even though they may not seem to you to be on the path that you're on, that the Christ is in everyone. And in your intention and your desire to see the Christ in everyone will bring forth the Christ in everyone. Because the Christ is in everyone. So you never walk alone, even if you think you're walking with strangers. And that's the miracle that we experienced. Everything went smoothly. We were able to get her into emergency surgery, and it was taken care of that night. And she's on recovery right now, and she's completely feels healthy and great, and we have no doubt that everything will be in the clear.
Thank you, brother.
The funny part, when we were in the hospital, I kept thinking of you, Coreen. So, oh boy, we're having a parallel experience here.
Yeah, absolutely.
We get to see the Christ in everyone around us.
That's right. Yeah.
It was a true blessing. It was like we were surrounded by angels, not by humans.
That's it. Isn't that beautiful?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Angels all around us all the time.
Yeah. So even if you think that you're facing a world that has no intention to awaken, the Christ is right there in every one of us, in every stranger, in every creature, and in every situation. You just have to be open to it. Trust the Christ in your brother, because he is right there waiting for you.
Thank you, Tony.
And that was a release from fear.
Yeah, that's it. The love is the release for fear, and you can find that love in your brother, the one that's sitting right next to you. You know, I've said we're sitting here going, "Oh, I'm seeking a God that seems so far off and unknowable," and yet, gosh, God is in your brother or sister that's right there with you on your screen or right next to you. Join. See the Christ in them. Let them reflect the Christ back to you. And in that holy instant is the remembrance of God. It's right with us wherever we are. It's this game of I put God out there and someday I'll get there. That's the ego's ploy of separation. The God self is alive and well in you right now. Take off the blinders. Take off the self-imposed fearful layers and introduce yourself to your holy self. And let it just romance the heck out of your heart. You will fall in love with yourself. He's in you. His beauty and his love and his patience and his mercy and his goodness is alive and well in you. You don't have to go seeking. Yeah. Look past all the false appearances and just love. Be the love that calls the love out of whoever's standing with you or whatever's standing with you, next to you. Yeah. We can certainly do that. I love you all. If there's a desire for the recording, I'll have it, and I'm happy to send it by email to anybody that wants it. Bless your heart for coming tonight. I really, really appreciate it. Every single one of you mean the world to me.
Thank you, Coreen.
Thank you.
Love you.
I love you. God bless. Have a beautiful morning, day, evening, whatever it is for you.
Night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you
Good
so
night.
much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Coreen. Thank you, everybody.
Love you.
Love you.